Yo, it's really good, y'all. My fault. They're wrong. Trying to get the crowd to come in. You feel me? DeeTrynt, Game Changer Sports Talk, in the street sports, man. What's really popping with y'all? You feel me? You know, as I look to get more people in and get them to check out, I want y'all to follow, the website, man. In the street sports, streets end with a Z, sports with a Z, .com. All one word. You feel me? Check out the latest sports articles, man. We cover everything: football, basketball, baseball, local, MAC, HBCU. We cover everything, man. So make sure y'all check that out. You find some very nice articles on there, some nice videos, some nice interviews. Make sure y'all get on there and check that out, man. Follow and support. You feel what I'm saying? But we're hitting a beautiful weekend in Cleveland. I mean, now I'm not in Cleveland. I'm in Florida, so don't judge Cleveland by my background. If you're going up to the All-Star game this weekend, I think you should definitely be, dressed for the weather. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure it's going to be around 20-something or less, most likely. They might throw in a 40 or 50, depending. But, you should definitely go and enjoy yourself, man. Cleveland got some of the best food in the world, all right? And just so happen we have one of the best teams in the world right now when it comes to basketball, all right? And these Cleveland Cavaliers have been taken off. If you don't follow me on social media, please, you should. I usually have some very interesting takes, articles, stats, and stuff like that. But we're going to get into what these Cleveland Cavaliers look like going into the All-Star break. Now, the Cleveland Cavaliers go into the All-Star break with a current record of 35-23. They could easily be 36-22 or 37-21. They're on a 2-game losing streak, losing the last 2 games leading into the break to Philadelphia and Atlanta, respectively. Now, both of those 2 teams were in the playoffs last year. Both of those teams actually made it to the second round. And Atlanta ended up beating Philly to get to the conference. And the Bucks beat the Nets, of course, towing the line. Durant almost over, So, but what do these Cavs look like? Well, let's look at their offensive production. Last year, the Cavs were one of the worst teams in offense. And one of the worst teams in defense. And not necessarily because of their play, but it just wasn't enough. Through 3 quarters last year, the Cavs were probably one of the best teams ever, all right, through 3 quarters. But they could not close. They could not close. We got one closer, was Sexton last year. Now he's out this year, we brought in some guys and, let's see what it looked like. So after 58 games, the Cavs are 23rd in points at 106 per game, 20th in field goals made at 39.5 per game, 30th in field goals attempts at 85, 9th in field goal percentage at 46.5. So let's just take that. They average 106 points a game. They shoot 40% from the field as a team. That's from 2 and 3. Well, that's from 2. 40% from the field. They're 30th. They're dead last in field goal attempts. So they're 7th from last in makes. They're last in attempts. Now, I emphasize that because as I go to the next stat, they're 9th in field goal percentage, which clearly tells me that the Cavs take good shots. They don't take an excessive amount of shots. It's clearly why they're taking good shots. All right? They don't take excessive amount of shots because they're last in the league at taking shots. But they make a very good percentage. Matter of fact, they're top 10 in making majority of their shots. It's a very good attribute to have, especially where they was last year. 3-pointers. They're 20th in 3-point makes at 11.5 a game. They're 3rd in 3-point attempts at 33 per game. And they're 16th in 3-point percentage as a team with 35% from the field per game. So what does that tell you? What does this tell you? They take good shots. All right, they don't take enough shots, but they take good shots when they do take shots. And for this being a young team, the oldest person on this, starting lineup or the regular starting lineup, is 24 years old, and that's Lauri Markkanen. All the veterans come off the bench. So it's highly understandable, why things are playing out like they are. At the same token, this gives you a lot of hope for promise. They're only last in taking attempts because their leading scorers are out. Colin Sexton is out for the season. Lauri Markkanen has been out for the last month, and he'll probably be out for another 2 to 3 weeks before he returns. Karis LeVert only been back. He only been with the Cavs, like 3 games? So each one of those guys are 18 to 25 point a game scorers. That's 3 guys who could ultimately get you 60 points collectively who are not on your team. So this just shows like Coach JB Biggerstaff is doing a hell of a job with this unit, man. Finding ways to win, finding a way to get the most out of each player, convincing them to accept their role on the team, playing together. I mean, you got to give this man his props, bro. Let's go into the rest of these stats. 20th in free throw makes per game at 16. 18th in free throw attempts per game at 21. And they're 24th in free throw percentage at basically 75.5%. Now, 75% from the free throw line as a team is a very good free throw percentage. I think the top team is like the Phoenix Suns or something. They shoot 81.6. So, we're a few bounces. I mean, look, we shoot 16 free throws a game. I mean, we shoot 21 a game. We make about 16. Man, that's a damn good percentage, bro. You know what I'm saying? That'll get you a lot of wins on a lot of nights, which is probably why they got 35 wins at the 58 games. You know what I mean? Now, this is where we start to get into where they need to ramp it up. All right. The Cavaliers rank 11th in rebounds at 45 a game, which is nice. But for a team ranked as high in defense as they need to definitely stay and be more on rebounding as a team. Extra possessions in the playoffs are everything. And when everybody in all 5 positions are rebounding when they're on the floor, it just gives you a lot more ability to take advantage of the opposing team's defense. You know what I'm saying? The Cavs are 8th in assists, high number of assists, top 10 in sharing the ball, one of the best passing teams in the league. Even though we only really got 2 specific point guards, everybody on the team can pass. So that's been working out well. Steals, 7.2 a game, 7 steals a game, ranked 19th. That's pretty good, in my opinion, especially with all these young guys. 24th in blocks with 4.3. And I just think a lot of that has to do with, a lot of, the steals and blocks would be a lot higher if it wasn't so many injuries. Ricky Rubio was a hell of a defender, and he was helping that number. Lauri Markkanen was helping that number, with his ability to force guys to give the ball up when they don't want to. His length at 7 feet, his athleticism, being able to move his feet, it really helps with the team defensive side of things. So, I expect when he does play and he does come back, speaking on Lauri Markkanen, that, the rebounding, steals, and block numbers will increase. That's my belief. Now, the key stat in all this offense is the turnovers. They rank 23rd, bottom half of the league in turnovers with 13.6 a game. Now, if we can cut the turnovers in half, maybe 2 turnovers a quarter, then, what, 5, 6 less. That's 5, 6 more shot attempts. 3, 4 more makes. You know what I mean? They're shooting, 40% from the field. 35 from the three. So that's at least 3, 4 more makes. That's at least 9. Anywhere from 6 to 9 more points, 6 to 15 more points. So that increases their average. You know what I mean? So, the Cavs will learn how to take care of the ball as they learn how to win in this league. Uh, this whole rest of the season is the playoffs for the Cavs. And if they treat every game like the playoffs, they will be just fine when it comes playoff time because they'll be so used to playing this way on a night in and night out basis. You know what I mean? And we're going to get into how they can get better. But I just want to go over these stats a little more. And just a few accolades, all right? Defensively, this Cavaliers is a top 3 defensive team. Make no mistake about it. It's hard to really get a lot of open looks on this team. It's really hard to get a lot of points in the paint on this team. The one thing I will say is we don't have a person that can check shifty point guards. Like, we don't have the lockdown guard guy. Not Okoro's a lockdown perimeter guy, but I see him more for wingman. He could definitely lock down some point guards, but you're asking him to do a lot, and it's taken away from what he might be able to do on the offensive end. So, I would consider that the Cavs definitely look to get some type of other defensive stalwart to, guard point guards. You know what I'm saying? Especially for the way they're structured. But the Cavs lead the league in points allowed per game, and they only allow 102.5 points per game. So they only allow 102.5 points, and they score 106 points, which is just off the top of my head, three and a half point differential. And for this to be a young team like that, that's really commendable. You know what I'm saying? Hats off to the whole organization for how they played up to this point, man, because that is phenomenal. 6th in opponents' field goals make per game. They only allow 38 field goal makes a game. 13th in opponents' field goal attempts per game. They only allow 87 attempts per game. 4th in field goal percentage. They only allowing teams to shoot 44% from the field. This from 2-point range inside the 3. They're 4th in opponents 3-point makes per game. They only allow 11 and a half. 8th in 3-pointers attempted at 33. 8th in 3-point opponents 3-point percentage at 34%. So the Cavaliers defense limits your shots. You literally have to take good shots against the Cleveland Cavaliers team, which is cool because that's what championship teams do. They only take good shots. They're patient on offense. They take advantage of the other team's mistakes, and they make as little mistakes as possible on their end. This is how you play championship basketball. Free throws. They're first in opponents' 3-point free throws made. They only allowing 14 free throw makes per game. They're first in 3 free throw attempts. Opponents are only shooting 18 attempts per game. They're 10th in free throw percentage. Guys are shooting 75%, from the free throw line. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. Teams are taking advantage. They definitely hitting their free throws when they get to the line. That's if they can get to the line. So the fact that this young team doesn't foul a lot, everybody in the league know that they have a stellar stalwart defense, a team defense for sure. Come on, man, you got to tip your hat to these guys, all right? And you know what? They got to be getting some type of recognition because you know what? The All-Star game is this weekend in Cleveland. Festivities start tomorrow, February 18th, downtown Cleveland, Rocket Mortgage Arena. You feel me? Right off Huron, Ontario. You feel what I'm saying? Right off the lake. Listen, you need to go down there and get into that, all right? And tomorrow is going to be the Celebrity game and the Rising Stars game, which should be so epic, all right? All right? But who do the Cavs got? The Cavs got 2 All-Stars. Darius Garland, who was voted in as a reserve by the coaches. And you got Jared Allen, who's basically a replacement for James Harden, but Jared Allen deserved to be in the All-Star game. And make no mistake about it. We have two rising stars. Evan Mobley, rookie Evan Mobley, and second-year wingman, Isaac Okoro. All right. Let's get into averages on the year. I just want y'all to see how well this Cavalier team is playing, even though they are deprived of their two biggest scorers. So Darius Garland is averaging 20 points and 8 assists per game. Now, this is all at the start of yesterday. At the beginning of the day, February 16th, 2022, these were the stats. And this is where everybody was placed at. That was games last night. I think it might be final games tonight. And then everybody's off for the break. Well, final games could have been last night, and everybody's off for the All-Star break. But I just want y'all to see where these Cavaliers are at. Darius Garland, 20 points, 8 assists. Jared Allen, 16 points, 11 rebounds. Evan Mobley is averaging 14 points and 8 rebounds. Kevin Love is averaging 14 points and 7 rebounds. Kevin Love is averaging 14 points and 7 rebounds with 20 minutes on 20 to 25 minutes a game. That is fucking amazing. Karis LeVert is averaging 13 points and 4 assists. Chetty Osman is averaging 10 points. Guard Rajon Rondo is averaging 7 points and 5 assists. All right, Lauri Markkanen, who's out for the next few weeks, short-term injury, he is averaging 14 points and 5 rebounds. And injured guard Colin Sexton, before he went down for the year, was averaging 16 points. So you're talking just from these guys, okay? I didn't include Lamar Stevens and Isaac Okoro. I didn't include Dean Wade. Other guys who have been contributing. I didn't put Ricky Rubio stats up there. He's no longer on the team, but, he was getting 13 and 7 a game. But, looking at this, man, I mean, you got, 32, 52, 66 points, and I ain't even got, just from 4 of your 5 starters, you getting 60, let me see, 32, 52. And that's just adding Colin and Jared. Then I add Darius. That put me at 52. You add Evan, that's 66. All right. Then you add Markkanen. So that's 80 points. Now, if you go back and read my article, check out an article I did at the beginning of the basketball season, predicting some of the things about what the Cavaliers offense and defense could do. I said that their starting lineup could get them 90 points a game. Right now, they're doing 80, and that's without Colin. You know what I'm saying? So we got to show love to JB Bickerstaff, man, for Coach of the Year, bro. I feel like he's running away with this thing. I don't even think it's debatable. Now, don't get me wrong, man. The job Billy Donovan doing with the Bulls is damn good. The job Steve Kerr has done with all the injuries he's had. The job Eric Spoelstra is doing in Miami with all the injuries and rotations that he's had. The job Ty Lue is doing with the Clippers and all the injuries, things that he – like, there are guys who are definitely worthy of being nominated for this award. But none of them are more worthy than the Cleveland Cavaliers team, who was predicted to be another lottery pick at this time of at the beginning of the season. They were projected to maybe win 30 games. They've already won 35 going into All-Star break. They only won 22 games last year. They won 22 games by the end of the first week of 2022. Okay, so we gotta be real serious about how these Cavs are and what they doing. Wait, hold on one moment, y'all. Hold on, I got to grab them. Hold on. Yo. Yeah, my bad, man. Sometimes you got to take that little break. Unfortunately, you feel me? It just so happened to come in the middle of streaming. So my apologies. I appreciate y'all who stayed in. Make sure y'all, come back, tune back, spin the block on me. You feel what I'm talking about? But I was saying, I had put up an article, just trying to, guesstimate how the Cavs might be. I said, that starting lineup could get you about 90 points, and they're doing about 80. Like I say, they 35 wins already, after being projected to only do so many wins, they might have at best been given an opportunity to get 35 wins for the year. The Cavs could easily win 50 games this year. And I feel like 50 is the number, all right? Like I said, Coach JB Bickerstaff, he is definitely Coach of the Year. Unless the Cavs, almighty forbid, they just fall out of favor crazily. I don't see how anybody else can overtake this from him. Now, one thing I will say is if Miami finished with the number one record, I can't be mad if they give it to Spoelstra. But if the Cavs finish anywhere in the top four, this ain't debatable. Cavs finish top two, this definitely ain't debatable. But even with all that being said, all the positives going to it, it's about learning how to win. They lost to Atlanta 124, 116 the other night. Trae Young went for 41. Now, people will be like, hey, the last couple games, the Cavs just ain't really been doing like they should have been doing. They haven't been performing at the level that we've come accustomed to this year. And I don't want any people to panic. The Cavs are a young team, man. They are a really young team, and things happen. Learning how to win at a high level, at the beginning of your career isn't something every young NBA player goes to. Majority don't. But the Cavs have a lot of things in their favor. With the exception of Rondo, Karis LeVert, Evan Mobley, this team has been together for 2-3 years. These guys are not new to each other. Chemistry is a big proponent in success. And these guys have a lot of chemistry, played with each other for quite a long time. That's to be considered. We talk about what they could do, or the possible, the ingredients need to really be successful when it comes to playoff time and things that I think can agree. It's just about learning how to win.
You're breaking up, bro.
And this is where I feel like Cleveland really needs to learn how to, this happen.
You breaking up.
Can you hear me?
Frozen. Yeah, you got frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, but you frozen.
Yo.
Can you hear me?
I'm froze.
You was froze.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Now you like robot mode.
You said I'm froze?
You was froze.
I sound like a robot?
You did. I don't know. You might be good.
I sound like a robot?
Might be good. I don't know.
What I sound like right now?
You sound straight right now.
I sound bad. Let me tell. Look. Okay. I'm good right now. All right. My apologies for any technical difficulties that's to happen. Technology be tripping sometimes, but sometimes it could be me. It could be the user. I ain't perfect now. Stuff be happening. All right. But looking at this Cavs team going into the stretch run, I feel like they should be treating every game from this point forward like a playoff game. I felt like they got a little taste of what the playoffs will feel like by the way Philadelphia and Atlanta played them. So I think that's good tape for them to build off of going into the All-Star break, and something that they can continue to, fuel off of, going towards, the most important part of the season, man, is that March stretch run. You know, March usually make or break a lot of playoff teams, a lot of contender teams. You know, some teams catch fire in March, and you know they go into the playoffs doing their thing. Some teams, you know, they don't do that well in March, and they have to survive off, you know, what they did at the beginning of the year that made them relevant or kept them in contention. So, you know, we got to see how this Cavalier team is going to handle it. Now, you know, like I say, 50 games, which give them about 15 out of the next 24 wins. 15-9 to end the season is not a bad record at all. 17-7 sounds better. 20-4 would be ideal, in my opinion, to end the season off. You know, 55 wins should get them a top seed in either division. You know, even as it stands right now, you know, Phoenix, they're 47-10 right now. 57 games. They got 25 games left. You know, they could easily end up with 60 wins, 65 wins. You know, that's not inconceivable for that team. So the Cavs, I feel like, too, need to be looking at a team like that. You know, look how that team is structured, how they running things. You know, how Chris Paul has those guys playing. You know, when you're becoming a good team from a bad team, you have to look at how the good teams are playing, and you have to consider incorporating that, you know, in your own thing, you know, because at the end of the day, shit, the playoffs tough, bro. You know how hard it is to win a championship in any major sports league, you know, let alone basketball. You know, so let's get into the specific things I want to see. I've been sharing, just trying to get my shares up. Let's get into the specific things I want to see. One of the specific things I want to see is them execute a lot better in the half court. The Cavs get quite a few turnovers on fast break opportunities, but they get bad time and turnovers in the half court. You know, they've made a name for themselves coming off that pick and roll, being able to pick and lob or pick and pass to one of the trees. You know, one in Tower City, you know, whether it be Mobley or Allen. But I feel like, oh yeah, because I got a blaze. You know, I feel like they need to get more out of their wingman in the half court set. You know, specifically Isaac Okoro. He has to take more 2-pointers. Isaac Okoro is becoming a threat from the three. You know, they're starting to learn, if you leave him open, he could hit, you know, 3 out of 5. 60, you know, he could hit 3 out of 5, 2 out of 5 on a consistent basis. You know, and he's been getting a lot better. He's only taking ones he can hit. You know, there's been games he shot perfect from the three. You know, 2 of 3 from the three. You know, 3 of 5 from the three. So he's been shooting pretty good from the three, taking only good 3-point shots. Everybody in the league know if Isaac Okoro get a lane on you, he dunking on you. If he get a window, he dunking on you. And he can finish at the rim with either hand. But in order for Isaac Okoro to get more opportunities to finish at the rim freely, he has to be able to hit that mid-range shot. Isaac Okoro need to be able to step off that pick, take 1 or 2 steps inside the three, and hit that shot. He has to, because we don't have Saxton here that's going to open that part of the game up. Now, Karis LeVert does it. Darius Garland does it. But you're asking those guys to set up the offense and score, which ain't a problem for them. But you still need an extra guy. All right. Rondo is a facilitator. He is going to orchestrate and run your offense and make everybody look good. He is not going to be a scorer. Even on his best nights, Rondo might get you 15. He may get you 20 on an excellent night. You see what I'm saying? But Rondo will get you about 9 or 10 points. Rondo get you about 9 to 15 assists, though, on any given night. So that helps. But you need another guy who can score from jump shots. Now, don't get me wrong. Evan Mobley can score from the jump shot. Chetty Osman has been doing really good scoring off the dribble or off the spot up. Evan Mobley has done really well. Even Jared Allen has shows and flashes and glimpses that he can hit from the pick and pop or a standstill shot position. But you know, guys like Dean Wade, he's a good 3-and-D guy. Maybe he has to, because they're going to be harping on Dean Wade as a 3-and-D guy. I think he's really building his name up. He becomes a free agent. A team is going to pay him to put him on rotation mode. So, a guy like Dean Wade, you're going to be open for the three. Keep taking your threes. But if you see they getting hip to you, I need you to hit that pump fake like Kevin Love do. Take that step inside, not to the side. Take it a step inside and hit that 2-point shot. Because if you can hit a 3 from that range, you can hit a 2 from that range. From a guy who can shoot, I understand you can hit a 2 from that range if you can hit a 3, flat out. A guy like Lamar Stevens, I don't really have a lot to say bad about Lamar Stevens because I feel like Lamar Stevens does anything anybody could point out. He gets better on the defensive end. He gets better on the offensive end. He gets better off the dribble. He gets better off the pass. Lamar Stevens is going to be a everyday player in the next year or two. Whether that's with the Cavs or not remains to be seen. I hope it's with the Cavs since we built him. But he's going to be an everyday player very soon. He has that type of game and that type of growth to his game. I think for him, he's going to have to become an excellent ball handler to really stand out. I think he has everything else. He does it pretty good. But if he could become a standout ball handler, a playmaker off the dribble, I think that will do a lot for his stock and, and his potential income, his earnings. You know what I mean? As a young player coming up in this league, undrafted. But the mid-range is something that the Cavaliers as a team is going to have to start taking advantage of because they're known as we went over the stats, man, they're pretty respected as a 3-point shooting team. They know for a fact Garland can shoot, Kevin Love can shoot, Lauri Markkanen can shoot. So from each level, from the guard level, from the wingman level, and from the big man level, we have sprayers, guys who can legitimate threats to hit 4, 5, 6 threes in any given game, if not every game left open. All right. Then you got, the supplemental guys who can hit shots, and hit threes, like a Chetty Osman, like a Karis LeVert, like a Evan Mobley, Dean Wade. These guys aren't 3-point marksmen, but they can hit, enough 3-pointers to be respected. You ain't just going to leave them open, especially if they get hot. And then you got, guys who could at least hit open shots. Isaac Okoro, Rajon Rondo, Lamar Stevens. You got guys who can at least hit open shots. So, they are a respected 3-point shooting team, overall. They're a respected paint team. You got your big man in the paint, your starting 4 and your starting 5 as a unit are averaging 30 and 19. That's amazing. If I add your other front court starter and Lauri Markkanen, that puts them at 44 and 24. So from your front court, you're getting 44 and 24 a game at least. Yeah, they respect it in the paint. All right? Nobody wants to let them catch a lob or do the dunk off or dink off. So this is where I say, taking advantage of mid-range jump shots, being more deadly with that floater, that is going to help keep this offense being consistent in the half court. To me, that's one of the big keys in evolution for this offense. This Cavalier offense, a play style, JB Bickerstaff play style. Another thing, which is, basically adds to the first point, secondary to the first point, however you want to say that, is winning in the half court. Now, the thing about the Cavs that make them so nice is that the guys that you ask to score the ball are not necessarily the same guys that you ask to defend at a high level. So, for example, Jared Allen is we ask him to defend the paint. He is the first line of defense as a rim protector. Isaac Okoro is the first line of defense of perimeter protection. Those two guys are not the ones asked to put up majority of the points. Even though Jared Allen does score a lot, that has a lot to do with the facilitating that comes from Darius Garland, that did come from Ricky Rubio, and potentially was coming from Colin Sexton. Jared Allen is not the guy to go out and get his home buckets all the time. Isaac Okoro, is a guy who gets it off the slash, he get it off the setup, get it off the transition. He's not a guy that you ask to go out and get you buckets, which means these guys can protect or can check the top paint player on the opposing team and the top perimeter player on the opposing team, and it doesn't take away from the offensive production that you get from the other guys. Like a Darius averaging 20 points a game, like a Kevin Love 14 points off the bench, like a Evan Mobley 14 points, like a Lauri Markkanen, his 14 points. I mean, these guys still are able to get their buckets. What's interesting, and which adds, and why I feel like the Cavs should be able to evolve, and Coach J.B. Bickerstaff should be designing plays, is that your big man can pass. Mobley, Love, Allen, Markkanen can all pass. They are above average passers. I ain't saying they could facilitate, even though Mobley and Love could facilitate a whole offense as a passer. So there needs to be more of that involved. They come down and they automatically pick and roll. All right. Well, let's come down and just give it to the big man right there in between the free throw and the three, because he can consistently hit that shot if unguarded. So you give it to him there. You run your Okoros and your Osmonds off the cuts, where you can get them off the slashes. And then you could come back around with your 3-point shooters off the secondary. You know what I'm saying? Garland come down, he could pass it. Mobley, he's looking down to, either dump it to with maybe Karis LeVert or Isaac Okoro, or maybe a Markkanen, coming off one of those back screens or something. The other one could set the screen. Whichever one ain't coming off the Allen screen on the off ball could be setting the screen for Garland after he gives up a ball. So now you got a guy getting open for a 3-point shot, whether it be off a down screen or up screen. You know what I mean? And you have a guy who's threatening the paint from a cutting position. On top of the fact that our big guys pass so good that even if they check that, and you leave the screener, the off-ball screener open, whether it's an Allen or a Mobley, they still have good enough passing to pass to each other. And at first it's going to catch a little friction because they got to get used to it. But the fact that you could put a Mobley there, you could put a Markkanen in there, you could put a Love there at the high post, passing down or passing out, that is a threat. The Cavs need to make that a major threat in their half-court offense, because, if you're going to want to get guys like Garland free for shots, guys like Karis LeVert free for shots, they aren't the biggest, strongest guys. So you're going to need those guys to have their endurance up, their energy up, their focus up to make that pass, take their defender into a screen to freeze them up off ball for a shot, or for a triple threat, or for the pump fake and drive, staying constantly moving. All right. Rip Hamilton, Reggie Miller, Kyle Korver. These guys made livings off moving without the Dwayne Wade, moving without the ball. Allen Iverson, moving without the ball, forcing the defense to constantly stay moving or stay on guard is going to open it up for everybody else. So I want to see more of that in the half-court set. I want to see more plays drawn up for Isaac Okoro to shoot a mid-range shot. For a Karis LeVert to get a mid-range shot without often to always get it off the dribble. I want to see a Darius Garland get a mid-range shot without getting it off the dribble. I want to see Evan Mobley or Kevin Love getting mid-range shots without having to necessarily always go off the pick and roll. These are the things, because we are deadly from there, bro. We got 6 or 7, 8 players who can consistently kill from mid-range, which is in between the three-point line and the paint. We have guys who can murder in that area. So I want to see the half-court set of the Cavs offense do a lot more of that. On defense, they got to figure. If you don't know, watch how they do it. Allen protects the paint. Okoro, he gets the perimeter. Evan Mobley is the free safety moving in the middle. So that way, whether it's a Garland on the side or a Karis LeVert on the side, or it'll be a Market in there, Love, whoever they have there, these guys are basically playing Hawk on the sidelines. It's almost like a safety and two corners. You make Okoro do what he do. What teams are doing is Okoro comes to set that pick. Okoro checks the ball handler, and then they bring a guy to set that pick. Now, they can't always draw Allen out or a Mobley, because both of those guys really could stay with guys. At some point, after they get hot, they'll challenge them, but it's not on a consistent basis. However, they'll like to stretch off on a guy to like a Garland or an Osmond. They'll try to take advantage and make that the mismatch. So, they want to be able to have countermeasures for when teams do that, or teams consistently try to make that their mismatch, take advantage of Garland's size in the paint, or Chetty's lack of feet work side to side on the perimeter. You want to account for that. Okay, if they do this, we move to this type of defense to counter that, because the game is about matchups, bro. When you get down into the playoffs, when it comes down to playoff NBA basketball, bro, listen, it's all about the matchups. Can you consistently create the mismatch and take advantage of it on the offense and defensive end? Can you consistently force your opponent to make mistakes? Can you get in their head? Can you be physical with them enough that frustrates them and takes them focus off them executing what they need to do to win the game? Can you keep your poise and your emotions in check good enough so that way you can come to a successful result at the end of the game? This is what the Cavaliers must learn. These are the things that the Cavaliers must, come to understand leading into the playoffs, man. I got faith in them, bro. And I'm gonna be looking forward to enjoying All-Star Weekend. It's a shame that Isaac Okoro is not in a dunk contest, or Kevin Love or Darius Garland is not in the three-point contest. I think that's a real shame. But we got 2 in the All-Star game. We got 2 in the Rising Stars Challenge. When it comes to the skills competition, we're representing the skill competition as well. So Cleveland is definitely has their hand all over the NBA All-Star Weekend. It's the 75th anniversary, so all 75, the 70s that picked 75 best players of all time, all that are still alive, will be in attendance. It's going to be star-studded. Cleveland going to be jumping, man. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be a lot of events. Make sure y'all head down to the Captivate. You know what I'm saying? You down in Cleveland, make sure you go to the Captivate, Saturday, and check out the event down there before you go check out the dunk contest and all that. You feel me? But I have a lot of faith in these Cavaliers, man. I am so happy and so proud of them. People will say, who picked the Cavaliers to be this good? DeeTrynt did. You go back and check out some of my videos. You go back and check out some of my posts, my articles. You can check this out. I said, hey, if Kevin Love buys in, this team can win 30 to 35 games. If Ricky Rubio buys in, these guys could win 40 games. And that's just with those 2 veterans buying in. You know what I'm saying? But if if Colin Sexton was a 30-point a game scorer, we definitely talking contender. You know what I'm saying? Definitely top 4 spot. Man, you could go check this out. The footage and film is there. You feel me? I'm one of those people who always have a high faith in my home teams. You know, I can call a spade, but you know, I can look at it both sides. If all things go well, this we can go. If all things go bad, we can go here. You know, so I'm just really proud of these guys, man. These young guys are really putting in that work. They really got things looking real nice in Cleveland. And it's nice to have a basketball team doing well after going, you know, so many years of success. You know, LeBron brought us 6 straight years of success before he left. We seen 4 years of turmoil. Then we came back and seen 4 years straight of high success. You know, he left and now we just seen 4 years of turmoil. But now we're back to seeing high success. You know, and this time, this could last for, you know, half a decade. These guys are young. You know, 10 years from now, most of these guys will be 30, 31, 32. You know what I'm saying? Only a few of these guys will be like over 35 in 10 years from now. And that's, you know, Rondo, Osman, Kevin Love, you know, Karis LeVert. You know, all these guys will be close to 40, you know. So this Cavaliers team has a great team. They have a great GM who built this team, you know, from the scraps. You know, imagine what this team would look like had Kevin Porter Jr. not acted ass. You know, will Kevin Porter Jr. come out and say he messed up? Can he come out and say, damn, bro, if I would have just played it cool, I could be the star over there in Cleveland right now with the 2. And you know, who knows? Kevin Porter could, you know, clean his act up, become a free agent, and be like, hey, Cavs, you know, I'd love to come back. Who knows, man? We've seen stranger things happen. You know, but right now, this Cavaliers team look good. You know, if I'm predicting right now before the All-Star break, final record, I'm going to go 51-31. That's my impulsive guess on how the Cavs will finish the season. 51-31. So that's, you know, 16-8 to end the year. You know, I just feel like they're going to have their growing pains going through March, you know, learning to play how to win, taking their lumps and bruises. But, you know, having guys like Rondo and Love and Osman and Ed Davis there, you know, that is really going to help them. The buyout market, I knew it was a subject I hadn't hit. The buyout market. Now, I personally want to see the Cavs get a point guard, and I specifically say point guard. I want to see them get a point guard and a center. You know, 2 guys that come to my mind that nobody talks about. Chris Dunn, former point guard drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves, played with the Chicago Bulls and the Atlanta Falcons. I say Atlanta Falcons, Chicago Bulls and Atlanta Hawks. I don't know. I got football on my mind, man. I'm going to come back and do some football in a second. The Atlanta Hawks. Chris Dunn has the Dylan Windler syndrome. You know, he plays really real. He plays really hard. And for some reason, you know, because he plays so hard, he always end up with some freak tweak, little injury or something crazy. You know, something random, something you just don't always see, you know. But he's like 27, 28 years old. He's a guy that's still looking to make a name for himself in the NBA, virtually in his prime. I think that's a guy the Cavs should look to bring in. And that's just an off the radar name at point guard, that I think they should bring in a guy who could come in, play a role, fill a need, learn, and could ultimately become, a longer term solution, knowing that Rondo ain't really gonna be there but a season. Yeah, we can get Ricky Rubio back, but that's not always a guarantee. Ricky Rubio could not want to play no more. He could take his $17 million and retire. You know what I mean? So you always want to have some type of backup plan, short term and long term. You got quite a lot of games that allow, a guy like that to really acclimate with the team. And like I said, you need a point guard that's a bridge between Garland and Rondo. Rondo is a clutch player. You need him to come in to slow the game down, get the team back on the right foot. You know what I'm saying? You need him to keep things mature, keep things steady. In the playoffs, we might ask Rondo to play a lot. But for this season, him playing a lot, him coming out, playing, 30 minutes a game, that's not going to be helpful for us long term, for the Cavaliers long term. They need a guy who could absorb those minutes in the regular season and still have a mentality of ready to come in and play when it comes to playoff time, knowing that they might, lose some of those minutes they got in the regular season to Rondo. I thought Kevin Pankos would have been the guy, but he's not big enough. Garland's already a smaller guard. You need a more physical, defensive, taller type guard. I preferably say a point guard, though, because you need a facilitator, a guy that's going to allow Garland to freely move to the two when you run them two together. You know what I'm saying? And he could be a more deadlier shooter because you're going to need that in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Golden State learned it the hard way. That's why they got Jordan Poole and Steph Curry and Damian Lee. So that way, when they got to bring Klay to the bench and they need to get Steph off, a Jordan Poole is enough of a threat to keep them honest on Steph. A Damian Lee is enough of a threat to keep them honest on Jordan Poole. So a Moses Moody is enough of a shooting threat to keep them honest, if you have to bring him in with Klay. So, you want to have that too as a Cavalier. You need that on your team. Another guy who could fill that role, Gordon Dragic. He a vet guy. He can come in and fill that role. He can still score with the best of them, still play good defense, facilitate. I just don't think Dragic would do that. I'm of the mind state that he would love to go back to Miami if that's possible. Being that he was traded from Miami to Toronto and then Toronto trading. So he should be able to go back to Miami. He was traded from Miami to Toronto to the Spurs, and then the Spurs released him. So he should be able to go back to Miami, and I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt if he went to the Lakers. But if we could get him in Cleveland, that I'm not opposed to that. A lot of people say Dennis Schroeder. If Dennis Schroeder is the last resort, yeah, because he can only do good having him on the team. At the same token, though, Dennis Schroeder is looking to score. He's not necessarily looking to pass. You see what I'm saying? So if you get Dennis Schroeder, you're changing the dynamic of what you need because Dennis Schroeder is looking to score. So you don't want to play him and Garland together because Schroeder, even though he's a defensive guy, he's not going to bring the type of in my opinion, he's not going to bring the type of defensive stature that you need coming behind Garland at that position. Now, one could argue, hey, Karis LeVert could play the point behind Garland. But that's if you're of the mind state that Karis is better coming off the bench versus starting. Now, if you have that mind state and you say Karis should be the point guard off the bench behind Garland and is the bridge between Garland and Rondo, That's cool, but now this changed who you go after in the buyout market. So now if we're doing that, I'm looking at a guy like Gary Harris. I'm looking at a guy like Eric Bledsoe. Because these type of guys are not points; they're two guards. Even though they could play a little point, you would really want them at the two. Gary Harris can play a little three. But these guys have enough of an offensive game to go with their very tough defense that will allow Harris to strictly play the point guard. You know what I'm saying? Um, so if they could if they, decide Karras should play the backup point, and him and Love should be the vocal scorers off the bench, which I'm not opposed to, because you get Karis LeVert with Chetty Osman and Kevin Love off that bench as your scorers, you really got a productive team, bro. You could throw a Dean Wade in the middle, but that's not. But we gonna get to that anyway. But you could throw a Dean Wade at the three. You could throw a Lamar Stevens at the two, and run that squad like that. And that's, offensively with perimeter defense and sufficient rebounding, that's a good team. A good backup strategy. But it will leave holes at the backup center. And this is another position I feel like the Cavs need to tackle in the buyout market. Mobley and Allen are going to get a lot of attention. Going into the end of the season, like coming out the All-Star break, end of the season, and in the playoffs. Teams are going to key in on these guys, which means the games are going to get a lot more physical for them, which means they may not be able to play as long or be effective playing so many minutes. At some point it's going to be a die-off period, just per game, because they're young. It's just part of the game. They need somebody at the center position that can come in and help absorb some of that abuse. A guy that's going to allow them to put Mobley and Allen on the bench at the same time, but still could come in and be a good defender, a good rebounder, and run the floor. A guy I was looking at was Willie Cauley-Stein. I believe he got released from Dallas. He's still a young guy. It's like 26, 27. He played with a Karl Anthony Towns and Trey Lyles and those guys when Kentucky had that crazy team. And, he is a guy looking to, try to stay healthy and research his career as well. So I definitely think that's a guy the Cavs should try to bring in. Now, maybe Willie Cauley-Stein not available. A guy like Mike Muscala, he a stretch big who could still get you some rebounds and blocks, but he's like 7 foot. So, that may help you out a lot. You know what I'm saying? And that's a good play if they can get a Mike Muscala. I like Ed Davis. I wouldn't want to get rid of Ed Davis, but I like Ed Davis as a rebounder. He's not a defender, but he's a possession getter. So if I get into a game where, a team is heavy on a rebounder, I could put Ed Davis in there and soak up some of that abuse to rebound. But he's not a rim protector. So the Cavs need a guy who's a rim protector and rebound. So that rim protection is going to be everything. A guy who could take some abuse and protect the rim, they need that. Because being able to sit Mobley and Allen down for 4 minutes, 5 minutes together and bring them in fresh, or be able to just bring one in, and then bring the other one in. The ability to be able to do that will work so much to the Cavs' advantage, especially in playoff time, when it's about matchups and people playing physical, and they're going to be keen on getting those guys in foul trouble. You're going to need guys that's going to be able to come in and soak up fouls, man. You know what I'm saying? So I really I want to see them get a defensive center. I would have said Tristan Thompson, but Tristan is He's going to the Bulls. Yeah, he's going to the Bulls, if I'm not mistaken. Which is, I thought that was interesting, though. You know, that tells me that Tristan Thompson either got a bitter taste in his mouth about the Cavs, or the Cavs just didn't want to go in that direction at all. Because I don't see why he wouldn't have wanted to come back to Cleveland. Let me see. I'm trying to see some more names on this buyout. You know, some people said Kent Bazemore. You know what's so crazy? I'm not opposed to a DeAndre Jordan, bro. I'm not opposed to that at all. Because you're not going to ask DeAndre Jordan to come in here and do a lot. So if that's a guy that we can bring in, you know what I'm saying, play a veteran role, help the young guys. He has some chemistry, and has played with Jared Allen before. You know, having Kevin Love down there with him probably helps out a lot. They offset each other tremendously. Kevin Love being a scorer and rebounder, and DeAndre Jordan being more of a defensive guy and a rebounder. You know, and then having guys on the perimeter who can play some defense and take a lot more pressure off DeAndre Jordan. And he ain't got to ask him to play a lot of minutes, but he would definitely come in handy for the playoffs. So I think that's a good name. I don't know if Dwight was a guy that ended up on a buyout market, which I doubt. It's not impossible though. So my only issue with bringing Dwight over is Dwight's still a little immature for the culture that we have in place. He would fit the role perfectly, but I also think he would desire more minutes than we're willing to give. DeAndre Jordan would fit it because he wouldn't require that many minutes, but he would still get a lot of minutes, and he would get a lot of minutes in playoff time more so than anything. You know, Mike Muscala is a guy who wouldn't demand a lot of minutes. He could fill that role. He's the biggest guy defensively, but he could fill that role. Dwight Howard, though, I just think, you know, not to say, I just feel like I don't know how mature he really has gotten to be a mentor and a role player. You know what I'm saying? He's been a role player on teams full of stars where, you know, that guy's good. So, but he hasn't been a mentor to the young guys. So I don't know how he would do in that role to just be signing him up for that. Kent Bazemore, I'm not a fan of Kent Bazemore. I think Bazemore got game. I think his game has grown tremendously since he got in the league. And I think he's a veteran guy who brings something to the table. But I guess that will still be a considerable option if you decide, if you know, the front office and JB and them decide that Karis LeVert is the backup point guard. You know, you either get a Gary Harris, or if you can't get Gary Harris, you get Ken Bazemore. That's virtually one and the same type of player. It's just, you know, Bazemore a lot older. He's in his 30s. You know, so I guess that wouldn't be too bad of a thing. You know, Ben McLemore was a name thrown around. So Ben McLemore is – when I think of Ben McLemore, I think of the role Chetty Osman has. A guy who can play enough sufficient defense, but you really want him to score coming off the bench. Not be the main scorer, but just like a secondary scorer for your secondary unit. You know what I'm saying? Playing those two together probably isn't necessarily a bad thing per se, but when you have a unit like that, you definitely want somebody who can play above the rim. because you already coming off with Love as a shooter. You virtually asked Osman to be a shooter. And then you'll need a rim protector, and a guy who could play above the rim from the perimeter. But I'm not necessarily opposed to being McLemore. But, if they acquire, if they go after guys like McLemore, Gary Harris, Kent Bazemore, of these guys that end up on the buyout market, which we probably won't find out until after the All-Star break. They'll have till March 1st to sign guys that could be eligible for the playoff roster. So a lot of these guys are getting contract buyout negotiations going on now. They'll probably have it worked out before the All-Star game ends. Weekend ends, but they probably just won't start getting announced till Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, once you get into the week and start getting back to playing basketball. But if they go after one of those guys, like I said, Gary Harris, Ken Bazemore, Ben McLemore, that tells me that Karis LeVert is the point guard off the bench. And to be honest, that might be the smartest move. Because you have Rondo, you could just let Karis play the point. A lot of people will want us to start Karis at the 2. But you don't have to. You don't have to. What you do have to do is tell Karis he has to play smarter. We know Karis could get his shot off the dribble any way he wants to. But make that a last resort. Be a guy who uses the give and go. Pass to a guy, make a cut, get it back. Or give and go. He get it and then you can give it back to him because you planned it. Be a guy who can, and as I was saying, using your fours more to facilitate on the offensive end. You could use that with Karis. Karis can come in, come down, give it to Love in the high post right there at the free throw, top of the key, something like that. That gives Love options. You know what I'm saying? He can come off on the screen, come back around, get it, and then, if we get down to the last 10 seconds and ain't nothing happened, then you could, bring him out, give him a pick and roll, let him get his own. That would be ideal. And then, because it's it'll be a lot more wings that you can get on the buyout market than it will be guys that's going to play the point. So, if you got Karis in here, he could play the 1 or the 2. If you know for a fact that you're going to start Sexton at the 2 when he comes back, and that's why you're not pushing him to come back until next season because he's going to be all the way healthy, then you might as well get Karis familiar with his role now. There's nothing wrong with starting a Okoro at the 2 and then allow Okoro to be the 2 off the bench next year, or if it be the case, he started at 3 and Markin and come off the bench, however that role. But for this year, keep Okoro starting at the 2. Keep Garland at the point. You know what I'm saying? You just got to use Evan Mobley more on the offensive end. And stuff's going to open up way more when Markin get back anyway. So I don't want people to panic. It's the second unit, though. They need another defensive perimeter guy, 3-and-D guy, or the point guard. But not, as I'm talking to y'all, I'm coming to the was like Karis probably should just be the backup point. Karis being a backup point just solves so many problems. You know what I'm saying? A guy who can get his own shot off the dribble, can create for others off the dribble. A lengthier guy that you can bring in to check taller point guards when you have a matchup against taller point guards. He solves so many problems at that point. The only issue is if you do him like that, who comes off the bench for Okoro? If Osmus comes off the bench for Markin. In my opinion, it's time to unleash Dylan Willer. If the Cavs are not going to, be in the market to get one of these, these wings that I've discussed, then you need to let your first round pick work. And if he gets injured again, then he just get injured again. And I hate to say it like that because I am a fan of Dylan Willer. You know what I'm saying? I want to see him. I think his shooting, his defense, his rebounding ability from a perimeter position is what we need. Offsetting a Coro. You know what I'm saying? If he gonna start at that too. But if you ain't gonna get a guy in the buyout market, bruh, you gonna have to start letting Windler play. And you got to start giving him the minutes over Rondo. Because the way I see it is, you still play to win, but you got to learn how to win the right way. And if you start at the beginning and go through your lumps and bruises at the beginning, you don't have so many problems when you all figure it out and you don't have to readjust. So, start that Windler play, bruh. Look, start Garland or Coro. It's Dean Wade right now with Mobley and Allen. It's going to be marketing when he get back. Right now you could, bring Stevens off as the second, but I think it should be Windler. Stevens to already earn his place on the team, in my opinion. Him and Dean Wade. I need to see what Windler is going to give me. Because if Windler is going to give me something, then all I really need is to, if Windler's going to give the Cavs anything, then all they really need is a defensive center. You know what I'm saying? And like I say, a guy like Willie Cauley-Stein or DeAndre Jordan, a defensive guy who can rebound is not going to ask for a lot of minutes, Hell, even a Marc Gasol. Any one of these guys would do. And that'll help out a lot. But if you can add two, one of them and a perimeter defender who can hit open shots, or, a point guard that allows you to give you the flexibility to start a Coro at the two because you can bring another veteran guy off the bench to play that role. But I think this is the thought process of the Cavs. I think this is the mind state. I think these are the things that they'll go over, especially why they enjoy having an all-star game in a home quarters. So, it's been a pleasure rocking with y'all. I am DeeTrynt. This is Game Changer Sports Talk, Industry Sports. Follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Subscribe to us on Anchor, Spotify, Radio Public, Google Podcasts. Leave your comments. You want to come on, man, DM me, hit me up. You want to come on, talk, see what we talking about, get in on this, talk your stuff. Come on, hit me up, man. We can get it popping. But I am DeeTrynt. This is Game Changer Sports Talk, Industry Sports, man. We're going to holler at y'all later.